So now, during this time that my dad's in California and my brother's has this, he's wearing my sister's bathing suit. He's calling me, using me as bait boy and stuff like this. And then it comes down to the pigeons. He's catching pigeons. Jerry writes catching pigeons, and he's got boxes and stuff. And me and Jim's both catching pigeons with Jerry. And Jerry and Jim's is really the ones that's catching the pigeons. They've taken Dad's canopy and they put chicken wire over the front of it, and they're catching pigeons and they're putting them in there, and they've got a bet on a red pigeon and they've got a bet on a white pigeon, and it's $5 for the red one, it's $5 for the white one. It's between Randy Johnson and whoever gets $5 on everybody got to, it's, I don't know if it's $5 for each person or it's $5, just $5 between the two of them or whatever, but it's a big deal. So anyway, I'm setting up these here boxes, put little stick on little wires and stuff like this, so the birds come in, they just go in there, falls down. So anyway, I'm setting up all these traps for these boys as they're holding the pigeons after they get them out of the traps is what's really happening. And so I'm setting these things up, and then when the trap comes down and stuff like this, these guys are taking the glory that they've caught these pigeons, but the person that was really catching the pigeon is the boy that's been sitting in the cage. And they're caging me while my dad's gone in California. And matter of fact, my brother Jim and my mother Marietta, I got a picture of my mother here. My mother's holding my sister Debbie. So anyway, this is what we got here. So here's my mother, and she's holding my sister Debbie. And you see the watermelon that's in the picture? I'll cut you in half. That's what she's doing. You know, she's holding that child. That is not her child. That's my sister Bonnie's child that she is holding in front of her and hiding behind. She is hiding behind that child. They have passed that child off as my sister. And my sister Bonnie is holding that child right there, and you can tell by the way that she's holding that child that that child is her child. So that's what you have, and it's Hezbollah, because I'll tell you, my dad went, and I had a couple shots of whiskey, so I'm telling the story, and I don't need a little teleprompter to do this. So anyway, they have me helping them catching pigeons in Port Angeles. And my brother Jim, oh boy, my dad's gone, you know, me and Jim goes down the river. There's a salmon in the river like that. And who was with us? Vern was with us. Vern that lived just down the street from us. And I'll think of his name. I always think of his name, everyone's name. So anyway, Vern was down there. And Jim's jetting the river, you know, block off the water, John, you know. So I get in the water, and Jim's running the fish up and down like this. Don't let that fish through. I wasn't going to let that fish through. I'm counting. My brother Jim, I have to put up with my brother Jim. Hell no, that fish isn't going to pass me. I'm just a little kid. I'm only 5 or 6, by the way. So Jim's running that fish, and all of a sudden he starts booting it up on the shore. He gets that fish up, and I'm really sure it was Vern that was there holding the fish like this here. Jim says, get in the water, help me. He's, no, I can't. My mom says I can't get wet, you know, like this. I know it was Vern. So anyway, and he had a sister named Vera too. So anyway, the fish, he gets the fish, he got the fish like this here. My brother Jim gets a knife. He's just sitting there stabbing this fish. You know, I mean, I seen my brother Jim do amazing things, you know. Here, and we take the fish home. My mother, oh my God, just reward you. I love you. Food. You know, food was a hard thing at the time. I'm sure that it was a very hard thing at the time when I was a child, because I can remember my mother giving me beets and say, be lucky you got any goddamn thing. You know, she'd give me a helping of spinach. That's all you're getting. You know, I'd be gagging on, I can't even eat canned spinach. My mother would abuse me by giving me a fucking beets, a pile of beets, say that's dinner. When I was in the cage like that, cat food. The cat was sometimes put in the cage with me and the rat. We didn't get along good. Can I tell you what? You don't put a cat in the cage with a fucking rabbit and a child. You know. Um, I told my brother-in-law. I said, I will remember one time they lowered my sister into that cage. I remember eating cat food. I'd eat cat food. I'd eat little Friskies. It was the kind that had the X and the O's on it. So anyway, and they put Patty in there, and I think that I might have roughed Patty up inside the cage because you don't put somebody else in your goddamn rabbit cage with the other one. And these people been sitting there with a spoon going, when they're walking in the front room, I'm like, what about me? I'm in there and there's a fucking Hogan's Heroes comes on and it's like and all these kids goddamn Hogan's Heroes, and they're living in a PO camp in their fucking mind. Literally. That's what these people are doing in the Boy Scouts and stuff and stuff that was involved in it. And I was witnessing this shit from a cage. Here they had this pigeon coop. They had 50 pigeons in there. 50. Like the 50 cent president. And by the way, the strangest thing about this is when John F. Kennedy became president, I think my mother named me after John F. Kennedy. My dad was in Dallas in 1953. Did he go back in 1963 and snuff out Kennedy, or was part of that whole thing? And then he did the Zodiac thing. He did the D.B. Cooper thing, and they finally rewarded by sticking him in that bowling alley right there. And you know what? I'm kind of led to believe that that is possibly the very thing that really happened. By the way that this here family has been acting out and the stuff that they've done. And this guy gets a fucking loyalty from the cops. And he's been snuffing out people for the cops. He's the Cooper. He frames people and puts them on the run and stuff. And what they did was they took my very picture and they put it as D.B. Cooper. They took my dad's picture right here. This is my dad, this is Jerry, and this is myself, and this is my grandfather. They've done this to us. You look at this sketching right here. It's so close to my brother Jim's face and my dad's face when you look at it. And I got my dad's marriage license to my mother that coincides with the stuff that he did down at the Zodiac killer situation in California. Such as Washington, Cherry Street, Washington and Maple. Well, you go up the end of Washington Street in Port Angeles, there's the place where the hospital is, where Dad's children was born. Okay? And then you go down Maple Street and you end up at the Fiverboard Mill. And they put perimeters around the outside of these areas, such as this. This here was the Highway Market in Port Angeles Street off Gales and 101. And if you go down this road right here, down to 5th Street, you'll get to my dad's house. You just turn left on 5th Street, you go halfway down that block right there, there's a green house, and it was painted pig's pink before this. And you go to the neighbor's house over there, and there's a sticker right there that's a canine right there, because they're saying they got cops, goddamn places next door. And they set that up, and they put bricks on the other side on top of the roof of the building next door. If you say anything, we're going to bury you. I mean, Jesus Christ, does it get better than that? This is what they're doing. And I got to look at my time. This is number 3. And I'm going to go to 4, and I'm just going to explain things. Right here, this is where my dad's gas station was And Greenhouse, my dad's gas station, was right in here. You could see the cement pumps here, right there, where the cement pumps actually was. My dad's building was here. There was, the Johnsons was there. Marty Johnson, Danny Johnson, Randy Johnson, Dot Johnson, and the child, Susie Johnson, that was younger than me, like my sister Patty's age. And anyway, what Marty did up there, what happened was my mom got some money from a car wreck. My dad had to put a playroom on that house on 5th Street, and he put that playroom over the septic system. And he made my mom pay for that room and he knew that there was going to be crap about that, because you couldn't sell that house with that septic system like it was. So, when he left Port Angeles, that house was a giveaway. His gas station here and everything he invested in, giveaway. He walked away from it all. And by the way, Bertha Burks, she was just right here, 1970, just before we left. She got murdered. She disappeared, never to be found again. And also the two boys, the Connors boy, the other boy has an L in it. That boy was from back east somewhere. He moved into the Seattle area. They were over here. You know what? They got snuffed out. They were down at the military barracks down here in Port Angeles someplace. And they disappeared, the Connors boy and stuff, never to be found again. And it's related to my dad and them, and threatening the Johnsons probably is what I would assume. It will kill you if you don't shut up, Mr. Johnson, in Port Angeles, Washington. And by the way, then, and just to let you know that the Johnsons invested in the bowling alley in Mossy Rock just to pull it out from underneath my dad. At a point, my dad went to Mossy Rock, or went to Morton, went to a basement bowling alley, hid down there. I was his front person. He was hiding behind me there at the bowling alley in Mossy Rock, in Morton. And I remember getting poisoned on. Oh, I gotta cut this off, or it's gonna go too far.